tripping limousine is an old fool. Got a little secret that I'll tell you with the boys in the band.
Welcome back to Kevin Pollak's Chat Show. I am, as always, Chat Show. Who the hell are you? You're not buffering. I love that bit. 112 shows still makes me laugh. My mama said, you better mess around. That's where she screwed up. Welcome back. We've, first of all, my guest today said something unbelievably funny, and so many funny things have been attempted regarding the rapture. I believe he said, rapture, what a jip. Did I hear that from outside? Yeah, I thought that was pretty great. Rapture, what a jip. So first I want to welcome those of you who are out on street corners and whatnot preaching the gospel of the rapture. I want to welcome you back to earth, and I share your disappointment. I know, Jamie, you were looking forward to checking out early.
Always.
Yeah. Really
I'm good.
You're good.
I've seen enough.
29 had it all.
Yep.
Ready to go. I text you, oh, well, for the rapture last night. You said, I've always got 2012. Is it May? I think it's also May of 2000.
No, it's December, I think.
Oh, really?
I don't know. I think so.
Yeah. You seem to have focused your attention on 2012 already since the rapture came up snake eyes. Bumsville. So many people really disappointed. But I think when it was boiled down to, hey, the rapture, what a jip. I thought our guest today summed it up beautifully. Who you'll meet in 27 minutes. First things first, big news. Holy cow, is there some big news? Kenny? That would be a cue for you. Hey, look at that. We, Kevin Pollak's Chat Show, are coming to Hulu.com and Sirius Radio. Shit you not. Please be seated.
That was just J-Mac, by the way, so only he gets a cut.
Yeah. If you applauded, you get a piece.
All right, that's it.
And therefore, I have a huge announcement to make. I will be putting a stop to the pressure I put on all of you, the fans, by demanding your support and charging you for seasons of the library of our show on iTunes. I repeat, no more subscription fees, no more pay-as-you-go with the Dynamo player for video on our site, and no more seasons of 25 shows for a scant $4.99 on iTunes, 20 cents a piece. As of today, the audio across the board is available. As of Wednesday, the video will be, the entire library will be free once again, and hopefully forever. Audio and video as well, as all the new shows, such as this one, will remain free as long as we soar on the Hulu and the Sirius. You know, from the beginning, as many of you know, the notion was 1950s television, this hour brought to you by. And after not finding the right sponsor that was, well, big enough to take care of my crew, you know, we tried to change the way that iTunes does business. To all of you actually who did not flee with great vigor when we first announced that we were going to start charging for the library, as a way of suggesting that if you paid for music, books, apps, games, television, movies, and audiobooks on iTunes, why should quality podcasts like ours have no value? I want to deeply thank you for your support of the show during the last few months, not just with words. For those of you who plunked down your hard-earned dollars for those seasons, as a true and sincere display of my appreciation of your generous support, I make the following offer. And watch Jamie's head explode. Please send me a proof of purchase for a single season of our show on iTunes, and I'll send you your very own Kevin Pollak's Chat Show travel mug. Please note that the cost of this little beauty plus shipping is actually much more than you spend for the season of the show. Perhaps more importantly, keep in mind that every time I receive one of your proof of purchases and then gladly ship you one of these, Jamie is going to raise her voice about my being a complete and utter moron. And won't that be fun? So, you've got that bonus as well. Thank you so very much for your support for myself and our crew, and think of us kindly while you enjoy your free travel mug. Now, for those of the rest of you who may be wondering right now, travel mug, what the hell is he talking about? That looks fantastic. How do I get one of those? All right, fine. Stop yelling. If you want to purchase one of these containers, visit our gear store at the KevinPollocksChatShow.com website. Click on the door marked The Shop to get yourself some lovely merch. Further announcements, by the way, about our debut on both Hulu.com and Sirius in the coming weeks, but they are both hell-bent on getting us on both of their platforms during the summer. So, incredible news for us here and for you at large across this great globe of ours. Let's call it a rapture gift. How about that? Rapture, what a gif. You can say it again, actually. It applies here as well. So that's our big news, and I'll be talking about it more on Twitter in the coming days. But I wanted to break the story here for those of you who joined us live, and then getting us on the iTunes the day after, as so much of you are so happy to do. The library, once again, audio, completely across the board, every episode free as of this very moment. Video by Wednesday, which will be the, anybody? 25th? 25th. Wednesday, May 25th will be video. So there's your big news. So the sponsor we've had the last 15 weeks, I think, Bowflex, fine peeps, the fine peeps at Bowflex. I want to thank you for your sponsorship as well as Netflix, for your incredible sponsorship as well over the last many months. We shall wait patiently for you to tabulate the numbers to see if we're worthy of continuing. In the meantime, we got an interesting email from a Chris Gray of Chris Gray Furniture, who has offered to custom build us a new desk. He wrote to us basically insisting that our current table here is shit. But rather than just complain about it and its hideousness, he's generously offered to build us a custom table, as he put it, $12,000 to $15,000 range, that is more in keeping with the quality of the show as opposed to this piece of shit, which he can't stand to look at another minute. Well, Chris, I don't know what to say. First of all, I personally picked out this table.
It's from Wirtz Brothers.
When we were in the few weeks of pre-production, Jamie and I drove around to maybe 4 places before we landed at the Wirtz Brothers, and yeah, we picked up.
I always go straight to Wirtz Brothers.
It's true.
That's my favorite.
They're a go-to. And we found this beauty and said, wow, it's perfect. Wasn't an easy task, but there you go. I assure you, quite frankly, I think she's beautiful. In fact, if I may, how dare you pass judgment on this little baby from that secondhand store?
I liked it so much I used it on my Mad Men show.
Yeah, and This Week in Mad Men, a staff favorite, and new and noteworthy on iTunes. Use this very table. Where do you get off suggesting that we would pay you and obviously plug your business to build us what you think is a quality table? Dear God, man, where the fuck? What do you mean? As a gift? Free. Chris Gray Furniture. Thank you. Can't wait to see that brilliant table you're building for us. You're right. This is shit. Look forward to that table. I can't imagine how long it's going to take to build a $15,000 table. Desk thing. I'll look forward to it, Chris Gray. You son of a bitch. Thanks for pointing out the table shit.
It's going to be nicer than like most in the furniture in our
It's
house.
going to be, yeah, it's going to end up at our home, which you'll be invited to for dinner.
Oh, great. Now there's pressure on me and Elaine.
Now you have to cook again for people. All right, so that came in, and that was awesome. And what do we do now? The Ask Kevin? Sure, why not? Why the hell not?
Ask Kevin.
Weird. There's a graphic already ready, as if we had done it before. If you want to ask any questions of me or any of the crew here, please write to contact@kevinpollockschatshow.com. That is contact@kevinpollockschatshow.com. This one comes to us from Oricia0288 on Twitter, who writes, I was wondering if you were good friends with Bill Peterson like he likes to tell everyone. Do you mean William Peterson, the actor? Because I don't know a Bill Peterson who's not William Peterson, the actor. So if there's a non-acting Bill Peterson out there somewhere who's telling people that we're friends, shut the fuck up. Seriously, asswipe. You don't know me. Awful. Just terrible. Bill Peterson, the
1996?
actor, I kind of know. That is to say, we met, and I am a huge, crazy fan. And if he's walking around bragging that we know each other, fuck yeah, we do. This next Ask Kevin comes to us from Jason Daddy. Dear Chat Show, now that Netflix is a proud sponsor of the Kevin Pollak Chat Show, are you considering the possibility of offering the chat show through Netflix, either DVD or streaming? Well, the big question really is, are they considering it? I already said yes. I'm no idiot. Yeah, the powers that be, the incredible at George Ruiz, is hard at work with the Netflix folk, convincing them that, yes, they should have a podcast streaming live. Apparently they don't do, podcasts. They don't do podcasts on Netflix yet. And as we continue to try to change the world, as we did with iTunes, I'm going to have to ship 100 of these.
What? No.
As we did by the first podcast ever to charge for a library in the history of iTunes. We succeeded that with machetes in both hands. So now we will be the first podcast on Netflix if they'll have us. Here's hoping. I will keep you posted. Thanks for the question. Last question from Brian. Does listening to the material from other comics, I assume you mean comedians, affect your ability to create your own material? There are several comedians, yourself included, that have crushed jokes on certain subjects to the point that I cannot think of that subject without the joke coming to mind and staying stuck in my head for the rest of the day. Love the show, Brian. Is it difficult to watch other comedians? Is that the general question, and not steal their material? I'm not sure what the question is. Anybody? Somebody? Who's paying attention? No one. No. All right. At this point, I want to remind you to send your questions to contact@kevinpollakshow.com, and I will be happy to answer them as succinctly as I just answered those three. Two more thanks, and then we'll bring out our guest. First, for my lovely chapeau. I do love me the Gurin hats from the Gurin brothers, originally from my hometown of San Francisco. They got a lovely shop here in the Los Angeles area. Is it on the Melrose or is it on the Beverly's? On the third street?
Melrose. It's on Melrose.
I think it's on the Melrose. Always go with your first thought.
They're good hats, and they're very affordable. They're not.
They're wildly affordable
yeah.
for the fact that they're custom
They're
handmade.
They're handmade, and they range from like the lowest is like $30, and the most expensive one, which was a top hat, which unless you're some hipster dick, I don't know who's gonna wear a top hat.
Hipster dick need apply.
That was like $110.
I think it says that in the window.
But most of them
are you
about,
a hipster dick?
Go buy a top hat. But no, most of them are like $35 or $45 for a custom.
What about all
hat.
the Dixie cast members that work once a year doing Christmas carols?
All
Don't
right.
they need a top hat from Gurin
Okay.
Brothers?
But daily, it's going to be
Daily
some
top
hipster
hat's
douche.
a bitch to pull off. I'm Felix. You have to be that guy, I think. And then lastly, big thanks to Gurin Brothers. Thank you. Who are a sponsor of the show. They supply me with a lovely chapeau once a month. This one I picked up a couple of months ago from them, so thank you for your continued support. Speaking of support, Joe at Bleecker Street, maybe the best pie in Los Angeles. Not for nothing. If you like the thin, hard New York crust, not hard, but the thin crust you can feel.
I'll get that.
Yeah, you got
Excuse
that.
me.
You got that, honey? It's right there on the ground.
There we go.
You want to go to Joe's at Bleecker Street. There's one in the middle of town on the Sunset Boulevard and the Sunset Plaza. We use the one here in Santa Monica. We'll
He's
bring
got
it.
cannolis and sandwiches at that one.
Oh, God, the cannolis are insane. Oh, God. I got to get back on carbs. So, thanks to Joe at Bleecker Street. You know, my guest today, to not... First of all, you heard one of his part of one of his songs, which we'll talk about during the opening credits, which we've only done twice now in the history of the show. Did we not use Brian Tyler's brilliant score for the opening credits? And I was thrilled and proud to do it this time because, and we'll talk about it, this and other songs will be coming our way more and more from this award-winning actor, who's now going to be a giant force in the music business. When this crossover occurs, it's more of an uphill battle than I think most of us realize in the acting trade. So I look forward to finding out about that. But so much to talk about. But first, I want to welcome him to the table by simply saying there are very few times in an actor's life where even the remote possibility occurs where you get to have an effect on how television is made. You know, I'm boasting about changing the interwebs. Television, of course, has been around for 60-something years. And after all that time, they're still just trying to sell soap. The entity has not changed. How they make it has changed only a few times. And there are historical landmarks, one of which, by far, was The Shield. We don't have Detective Scroats. We have his brother. And I'm thrilled to death. Michael Chiklis, thank you so much for being here.
My pleasure, Kevin.
Yeah, man. Which another thing that never happens from outside. I'm telling you, Rob Reiner was here. Nothing. Eugene Levy. Nothing.
Holy cow.
So you know what? First, let's jump into Till I Come Home. There's no particular order of these proceedings. We'll get to the Born in Lowell Mass, but first, you said something before the show about an event that's coming up, 4th of July.
I've been asked to, first of all, I'm from Boston, so this has particular significance. Some Bostonians in the house in your crew. I love that. For me, because I grew up going to the Esplanade every year and watching the famed Boston Pops, first with Arthur Fiedler and then John Williams, and through the years of my life going to the Esplanade with that 500,000 people crowd and watching, the fireworks. And
that's the band shell there?
Yeah, that's right. We call it the Esplanade. And
right.
It's right there on the beautiful Charles River, and it's just a magnificent night.
It's ridiculous.
And for me, having grown up in Boston, and I'm going to say half of my 4th of July I've spent there.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah,
Wow.
over the years, yeah. And that's a lot of 4ths.
Long-standing family.
It's a family thing that we
Right.
do every year together, unless I'm working or something, preempts it.
Right.
And to be asked to actually host the evening.
Holy shit.
And then to be asked to play with the Boston Pops and sing with the Boston Pops, I'm beside myself. I'm right here and I'm beside myself.
Yeah.
So.
Well, where were you when you got this call? This is crazy.
I was at home. It just really was a bolt from the blue. It came out of nowhere. My agent called me and he said, "Sit down," and I went, "Okay, I love that."
You want to hear that from your agent? Yeah.
And he goes, "Do you want to host the 4th of July celebration at the Esplanade?" Now I just sort of let out this little sort of 12-year-old girl high-pitched squeal, and I was like, "Yes!" and he goes, "Way to play hard to get, Michael." And I was like, he's like, "You haven't even heard what they're going to pay yet." I said, "I don't care."
Yeah.
So I'm thrilled about it. I can't wait, and the fact that my best friend that I grew up with, this cat named Bob Pascarella, and hopefully through this band you'll all get to know his talents. He and I met first day 7th grade. I was playing drums on my desk, and this kid next to me goes, "Hey, you a drummer?" And I go, "Yeah." He goes, "I'm a guitar player." I was like, "Oh yeah." Best friends. That was it. That was when our friendship began.
Does he still talk like that?
No, not really. He didn't really talk like that. And he and I just immediately gravitated to each other. We've been in every band together since that time.
Holy shit! And I'm guessing that's a lot of bands. Or a handful.
Yeah, about 4.
Right.
4 or 5 different incarnations of bands with Bob and I in them. But the thing is, this pesky little acting career kind of, took us apart from each other for years and years. And it was, it's like the best kept secret that I'm a musician and have been since I was a little kid.
Yeah. Sounds like first, maybe.
Yeah, well, sort of simultaneously. I used to bristle when I was a kid that people would say, "You want to be a musician or an actor?" And I go like, "What? I just went and saw Sammy Davis Jr. live, and he does everything." You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And he really does do everything.
Yeah, played different instruments.
Oh my God!
Tap
On
dance.
stage, he would
live
sing,
too. Yeah.
he would dance, he would do a trumpet solo, then play a drum solo, then come out and tell jokes.
Yeah.
I mean,
He literally did everything.
He was a consummate entertainer and an incredible actor, and I just thought, you should do it all. You should really try it all and try to excel in every area you can.
Right.
You know, and we have that in common as far as starting as a mimic.
Right.
You know.
Yeah, I went through your dossier, and I found that part not only surprising, but wait a second, I'm going to need to hear more about this because this is how I started my life
Well, see,
at age 5.
Yeah, well, see, but you're hipper, you know, mimic than I am because you have up to date. Like people wouldn't know who I like Duet Win, don't you know? And people don't know.
She loves Edwin.
Oh, that's wonderful. You know, and I do people that are obscure, and you know.
But at 5.
Yeah,
6 years old.
Killed. Ed Wynn used to kill at the house. And I do Truman Capote, and people would go mental for it, you know. And I and I just loved just going. I realized, you know, it was that show, The Copycats.
Yes.
Loved. I mean, Frank Gorshin and Rich Little used to watch those guys, and I would do them doing people.
Yes.
So my first imitations really were of imitators.
I've talked about it on the show. Dana Carvey and I started out around the same time in San Francisco,
Yeah.
and we learned to do Carson watching Rich Little. We learned to do...
Yes.
Right? But this is where you learn it, from somebody else
Sure.
doing it. They find the key. Christopher Walken, for me, Jay Moore was the first guy that did it, you
Yeah.
know, and I saw him and I went, holy shit, that's got to happen. You know? Wow. That was it. Just wow. He starts there.
Sure.
Every one-syllable word when doing Walken becomes a 2-syllable word.
I did him. To him.
Right.
Captain. So I did. He was like, it's good.
Yeah. Yeah, it's an obscure, it's a weird...
But your Shatner, man, just kills. I'm
Well,
sorry.
Thank you. I don't know how you own an impersonation, but it's strangely fallen on my
It's
head.
yours. You own him. You just...
So as a kid, you're doing these impersonations, making your family laugh. You're bringing that shit to school, and then what? I mean,
you know what? Brando happened when I when I saw On the Waterfront, and I just went, no, that's what I want to do.
Really?
Yeah.
What age?
6, 7.
Holy shit.
You know, I saw inappropriate movies when I was young. My father didn't have. There was no ratings. He want to be an actor? Watch this guy.
Did he really?
Yeah. Fortunately for me, my father had good taste. You know, he would make me watch Brando and De Niro. If it had an O at the end, I watched him. Brando, De Niro, Pacino, but also, you know, Olivier and Gielgud and Paul Newman and Redford, all the greatest names of that time, that generation.
Right.
I was watching very young, very small, and he said, these are the best. Find out who they studied with and study what they studied, because...
Your dad said this?
Yeah.
Holy shit, dude.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
That's pretty incredible. Yeah.
My parents were not proactive at all. They were supportive. Whatever you want to do, kid. But they had no suggestions, no maps, no nothing.
Well, that was about it as far as...
But that's pretty good.
Yeah, pretty good. Yeah, he said, you know, if you want to be the best at something, emulate the best. Identify who's the best at it.
And also it shows that, you know, he cared as opposed to questioning.
Well, I asked him something when I was about 35 years old, and I said, Dad, how is it that this sort of working class Greek man from Lowell, Massachusetts, sent his kid to Boston University School of Fine Arts to become an actor? I mean, how does that happen? And he looked at me, and my father's one of these salt of the earth, you know, grounded individuals. And he just leveled me with a look, and he said, you think I would have allowed it if it wasn't who you were?
Holy shit.
And I just burst out crying.
Yeah.
I started crying. He was like, stop that shit, will ya? But I just thought it was really...
Holy shit.
It was a heavy. You know, I thought, Jesus Christ, Dad, you know...
Well, let's point out that shortly before this, you were captain of the fucking football team in high school.
Yeah, I was.
Yeah, so it's not like you were walking around in a tutu.
No, yeah. I was...
I mean, this is huge, I think, on a father's part.
Huge, absolutely, and I thank him all the time. I used to go back from New York back to Boston to sort of recharge my batteries when I was feeling low, and Dad was my, you know, input. I would plug into Dad, and he would just sort of fill me up again. I mean, he had the perfect balance of building me up and knocking me down.
Sure.
He was a great coach in that way. You know, still my hero to this day, my dad.
Nice.
Yeah, it's a good thing when you have someone who is a family that's that close and that supports you in that way and is just insightful. He has catchphrase philosophy. Do everything, kid. I did it. God, his phrases are blowing out of my head right now, but he would like sum things up in little phrases that just you went like, yeah, remember, like I'd be down and he'd go, every minute's a new minute. Little things like that, snippets, and all
stuff you can carry
little
with you.
profundities that are just true, absolute, and timeless.
Right.
Generationally timeless. So
I dig that a lot.
yeah, he's a good dude.
Captain of the football team. Now,
Yeah,
it's not a true.
it's
not a
listen,
true Rudy story, but I'm guessing you weren't the quarterback.
No,
Forgive me. And quite frankly, to become captain of the team, from my recollection, not ever playing on the team but observing it, you were a leader among men. That is to say, you could inspire.
that was probably the main reason I was the captain of the football team.
I mean, everything shows you have an insane level, or did, of competitiveness as a kid, for sure.
I was a competitor for sure. I still am. I can, I get competitive when I see guys throwing nickels against the sidewalk. I just think,
Let me in there.
Win.
Yeah.
I just can't. That's something that's innate. Football. I was a competent athlete, and I beat a lot of guys that were a lot better than me with my head. I could have,
Literally.
that too, yes, big noggin. No, but I outsmarted them, or I got them into their own heads.
Right.
And I liked, I can get a little crazed, on a field and get guys focused and rally, and I use humor a lot too in those situations. So I think Coach saw that early on, and that was the reason. It wasn't because I was some tremendous athlete. There were guys around me that were much better than I was.
But you inspired them.
Yeah,
Clearly.
I was a competent athlete. I didn't suck, but I wasn't any great shakes either.
Right, but I mean, you must have inspired them in a higher calling as opposed to being the greatest player they'd ever seen before. You know what I mean? You talk about the mentality and getting inside people's heads.
Well, I think one of the things I love the most about making films and television goes back to being on athletic teams. I've always thought it was a team sport.
Yeah, me too.
I just love to collaborate.
Yeah.
And I love, like you mentioned the Shield in the introduction, which I thank you for, and we'll get into that. But I think the most magnificent part of the Shield was that it was so familial. And
As a work experience.
As a work experience for 7 years. We didn't have a bad moment. That's
ridiculous.
You've been around a long time,
That's
right?
ridiculous.
We didn't have a bad moment on that set. We loved each other. We had a blast together. We were turned on by each other. We were excited, creatively. Just you knew that everybody sensed there was this heightened sense of, wow, we're doing something special here,
Yeah.
And because it never faded, it became like, we can't drop the ball. No one can drop the ball. We have to see this front to back through to its fruition. And I just love that kind of dynamic. I love that camaraderie that comes only in a team or on a set.
No, it's often when people say to me, why did you make this horrible movie? I would think back on, well, first of all, the script was good, and that's how they sucked me in.
Isn't that a funny question, though?
I know,
Why did you make that horrible movie?
Yeah,
People
but
don't
also,
really understand.
Also, you've never had a bad day at work, have you? Whatever it is you do for a living.
Right. Hello.
Yeah, you never put out a bad pretzel.
Come on.
But what I think back on when someone doesn't like a movie, and I remember the experience as being that great work environment and rooting for the team, I become unobjective. I lose all objectivity in terms of I want the team to win so badly
right,
that I don't realize, we might have made a bad thing. Right. Because I love the team.
I'm blind to it, and that's 100% commitment.
Yeah.
You can't do things in half measures. You have to you're in or you're out.
Yeah.
And I'm in when I'm into a project. although I've become a bit more jaded with time, and I've learned to identify a project's merits earlier on in the process, maybe through my experiences in producing.
Right.
Over the years, you know, and that's really hard. I think that's one of the hardest things in the world when you start a show or a movie, and you know within the first day, oh shit. Mm-hmm. You know, I mean, I without naming which projects, there's been a couple where I tend to recede a little bit and read.
Right.
You know, like there was one particular movie that I did that I ended up reading 5 novels during the 2-month period of the shoot.
So actors and directors out there, if you have an opportunity to work with my guest today and you see him off in the corner reading,
it's not a good sign. Because I'm an on-set guy. I don't like to go into my trailer and just sit there. I like, again, you know, I think it's really isolating to sit in the trailer.
Yeah,
so
it's horrible.
Yeah. So, and plus, I'm always like a sponge. I'm always going up. I'm kind of a pain in the ass with the directors of photography. I'm always going like, why are you doing that? What are you doing?
Yeah.
You know, because I want to know.
Right.
I'm still that way. I'm pushing 50.
Well, this whole thing's an education, whether you're open to it or not.
Right,
It's
and
like,
there's always these leaps forward.
Yeah.
And, you know, speaking of technology, you know, going back to the music thing, it's only through technology that this band was able to come back together. Because Bob Pasquarella, the 7th grade friend, lives in Boston. And I live here. And through the wonder of Apple and Pro Tools,
right.
we've been able to write cross-country. Like, I'll write a tune, record the bass, drums, guitar, basics, you know, file share, send it over here. He'll redo the guitar parts, send it back to me, and we'll work this way across the country. And in this way, I mean, can I go back and set this up? This was so exciting.
I want
for me.
it all, man. This is huge.
This is so exciting. I have to say, over the years, Bob and I have like jammed. He's had bands in Boston, and I've come and sat in a couple of times. And not once in all those years did we not come off the stage and have people go, "What the fuck? You got to do this! Oh my God, who knew?" You know,
Right.
and you get tired of hearing that. You know, you wanna satisfy that desire to do that.
But it's also allowing yourself to be a little vulnerable to a big part of the equation, which is there have been actors to come before you, and actresses, that have become famous as an actor, actress first, and then tried to launch a film career, music career, only to be told, what the fuck do you think you're doing?
Right, and
So
you're just tossing a lob to just be crushed.
Yeah, you are.
You really are, and I
gotta know
understand
that.
Yeah, absolutely. But you know what? We put ourselves out there. That's what we do. You know, as actors, as performers, we take risks and we go, hey, fuck it, I'm doing this. You know, and hopefully people will see merit in it and dig it on some level.
Well,
so
those that do will become passionate about it, and that's what will fuel what you're doing.
well, I feel with this like I'm 14 again.
Absolutely.
I got to tell you, I was doing this movie in Detroit with Adrian Brody and Colin Hanks called High School. Mm-hmm. Funny stoner comedy, and it came out in 2010 at Sundance Film Festival. I'm sure you've been involved with projects like this. This is such a funny movie. It's hysterically funny. It got 4-star reviews, killed at Sundance, hasn't been released.
It's called High School.
High School, 2 words. Yeah, High School.
Easiest thing in the world for the distribution part to get fucked up.
Well, you know, it's these Russian producers. You know, apparently he's worth a tremendous amount of money. He didn't like the deal he was offered, and he went, "I do not make deal," and that's it. You know, so he's holding the movie, and he insists that it'll be distributed at some point. We'll see. You know, but here I have what was happening at the time. Bob and I were just getting into this file sharing stuff, and I said, Bob, I don't have a studio at my house, and you know I've got to be able to record and send stuff to you. He says, I'll tell you what, you know, he's also a technician, and he runs this production studio in Boston. He knows everything about tech stuff, which I do not. And he said, look, your famous face will walk into Guitar Center and they will just rape you. Don't do it. I will pre-order everything for you. I'll walk in there, buy the stuff for you, and set it up with you. Let me do it.
That's a great friend.
So he does all the pre-ordering. We arranged for, I'm going to fly out from Detroit. He flies out. We both fly out on a Friday and meet in LA. We go on Saturday, pick up all the stuff, bring it loaded into my studio, build out the studio on a Saturday. On Sunday, he wakes up and goes, well, you want to take it out for a spin? I go, sure. What are we going to record? Something we could do quick because he's leaving tomorrow and I'm leaving back to finish the movie.
Right.
So we decide on Oh Darlin' by the Beatles.
Sure.
We bang the tune out in 3 hours, just the two of us. I'm flipping out. I'm 12 again, because you don't understand. When we were kids, we used to have to work all summer to build up enough money to get into the studio in Boston on the 2-inch tape from 12 midnight to 6 in the morning to record one song.
Wow.
All right? And now I can record in my house.
Yeah.
Digital album quality. I can't even fucking believe my ears.
What a great time
when
to
I hear, it's exciting. And all you kids are out there who are into making movies and making music, you have no excuse. I'm sorry. You have no excuse. You have delivery systems. All you need is your creativity.
Limited by your imagination.
The man just put it perfectly.
Well,
so,
that's it.
I just, all of a sudden, I'm 12 again, and I'm out of my mind, on fire. I come back to Detroit, and Adrian and the guys are there. I'm like, look at this. Look what you can do. And I play the disc for them. And just then the director comes in, and he's like, oh, that's a cool version of Oh Darlin'. Who's that? I'm like, it's me. Well, we did this yesterday in 3 hours. It's like, holy shit. So we start talking, and I say, hey, why don't I do something for the soundtrack? He's like, that'd be awesome, right? So I ask him, what would you want in this soundtrack if I was to record something original? And he said, could you write a 1978 Boston meets Aerosmith throwback rock and roll hit kind of a tune? And that was, Make Me High, which is very, it's...
Where can people get this right now?
iTunes, Amazon, any digital download site, anything. Any of the
Just
digital...
type in Michael Chiklis Band.
That's right.
Or Make Me High.
Yeah, and you'll find it. And that's what came out of it. But now that was the first single we recorded, but we didn't release it.
Right.
So cut to a year and a half later, we've been saying, oh, we gotta get in the studio, but I'm doing a television series, he's doing all this work in Boston, we haven't been able to get together. And finally, this Christmas we get together, and we record this song, and we really like the music, and it's sort of this Queen type of rock ballad arrangement. And we're letting all of our influences fly. And we grew up in the 70s and all the art rockers, the classic rock people. And we don't hear any of that on the radio anymore. Not original stuff. Very few guys. Foo Fighters are doing some of it. Dave Matthews. But there's not many pure rock and roll acts out there. So that's part of what fueled this. In any case, we write this song, and I don't know what to write the lyrics about. And just then my aunt calls me, and she's really, really down. And I ask her what's the matter, and she starts talking to me about my cousin Jared. He's out in Afghanistan serving his 4th tour. We don't know where he is. We can't communicate with him, and he's not going to be home for Christmas. Turns out, the good news, and I'll cut to the end of the story, it turns out that he was deliberately doing that to surprise his mother because he knew he was coming home on Christmas.
Holy shit, that's great.
Which was awesome. But at the time, I didn't know this, so I wrote the song Till I Come Home in honor of his service and of servicemen and women all over the world who are so far away. It's not a political song. It's not an anti-war song. It's just, I couldn't help thinking from an artist standpoint of, I had this image in my mind of my cousin sitting in a hole somewhere, snail mailing my aunt, and how hard it must be to be thousands of miles away from people you love and not be able to communicate and not be able to see each other and not know when you'll be home.
Literally detached in every way.
Right. So that was the genesis of that song. And when it was done, we really, really liked it. And I was happened to be on No Ordinary Family at the time. And I played it for one of the producers, and she said, we got to use this in the show in some way. And I was like, well, then I have to release it. And she said, well, then release it. And so it just happened, and we ended up releasing this as our first single.
Right.
And then once we released that, it's been going so well, we thought, well, are we going to wait 2 whole years or possibly Never for high school to come out. Let's just release that one too.
Right.
So the first 2 songs that we put out are singles, but they were so specific that they didn't belong in the context of a debut album,
Right.
which we're working on now, which will be a full-length, proper album. And that's what's happening with this. And then to get the call, hey, you know, you're playing Till I Come Home with the Pops.
People go to iTunes on this one as well. Till I Come Home. There it is. Michael Chiklis Band. This is also available on the iTunes.
Yeah.
On
Amazon.
and this is what you're going to perform
Napster.
with the Boston
With
Pops.
the Boston Pops. Right now, as we speak, Bob and Amanda, they're a husband and wife team. Amanda Carr, by the way, incidentally, is an amazing, accomplished jazz musician, charting jazz musician. She sings on that as well. And she did the arrangement for that song, is right now with the head arranger for the Boston Pops working on the symphony arrangement, the
Dude,
symphonic
you're going to be
arrangement.
standing in front of the fucking Boston Pops.
Yeah, I know it. I know it.
It's so
I know
great.
it. I love
and
that.
by the way,
I love that my mother.
Why are you doing that? Because you created something from nothing.
Nothing.
On your
That's
own.
exactly
You
right.
didn't wait for life. You made
Make
life.
it happen. Right.
That's why
exactly.
you're going to be standing in front of the Boston Pops.
Thanks, brother. Well, you know, people would say, "Why are you going to do that now, man?" You know,
Fuck those
just
people.
why are you going to do? And I just went, "Cause," you know, because I love it and it's exciting. And now a lot of them are turning and going, "Wow, you're going to play with the Pops?" And
Yeah.
yeah, because if I listened to you, I'd be, you know.
I'd be sitting in the audience.
Right, exactly, sitting in the audience. So, I mean, what I love is that it's happened completely organically.
Right.
Completely
Oh, yeah.
out of love
100%.
and all the right things.
As will the album.
You know, Paul Simon said something years ago that I just locked onto, and I love him. And he said, when he wrote the Graceland album, he had won every accolade and the Grammy and everything for that. And he was like, I really didn't think anyone would even respond to this album. I wrote it because it's what I wanted to do and what I was feeling at the time and what I wanted to say, and I thought, that's really when great things happen. When, that's what happened with The Shield. If you talk to our showrunner, Sean Ryan, who created The Shield, he said at the time, I wrote The Shield as a writing sample. I wanted it to be an example of how well I could write. So I was thinking about what I wanted to write about. And I was
no one would let me write.
Exactly. And I was looking at the front page how crime was plummeting in Rampart at the time. And I'd go to page 6 and I'd see all these articles about how police brutality cases were just going up and up and up. Correlation? Possibly. And then he made that connect, and he thought, that's what I'm going to write about. The thematic question about this entire series is going to be, what is it from law enforcement that we're willing to accept to keep us safe?
It's a war. How are we going to win it?
Right. It's, I believe there's a little movie where someone says,
you can't handle the truth.
You can't handle the truth.
Yeah.
No,
it's
and
the washboarding. I mean, it's all.
Vic Mackey is the guy that Nicholson's talking about on the wall.
Yeah.
He's the guy that he's referring to in that speech.
Right. Waterboarding. I think I said washboarding. Nice.
You did say washboarding.
But it's the waterboarding.
I was going to let it go.
Thank you. But it happens every week. I say at least 6 things that make the audience go, you idiot. But yeah, the waterboarding is the same thing. What are we willing to fucking do to get the job done?
Yeah.
I guarantee you that we didn't shoot in the fucking eye like Mo Green and The Godfather without getting information from somebody.
Yeah,
in a way that maybe wasn't approved.
I don't know. See, I go back and forth about that. I don't know.
Well, you don't have to answer it.
I'm not going to.
Yeah, you don't have to. Because I notice a lot from Adase, you've been asked a million fucking times where you stood on the character that you played in The Shield, and I thought your position was brilliant, which is, there's no way I'm passing judgment on this guy, so you can forget asking me. If you forget looking for me to pass judgment on him, that's just not going to happen.
Well, also, especially as long as he's still in play. And, the number one question I receive from everybody on Twitter and everyone that runs into me is, when are you going to make a Shield or a Vic Mackey movie?
Right.
And like I have, you know,
That's
it's so
up to
funny.
you. Come on now. It's totally up
like
to you,
I got
Michael.
the green light button.
Why won't you?
know,
I know. So-
And nothing, trust me, would make me happier
Right.
than to make a movie about Vic Mackey.
Tell them to take
3
their
years
Twitter
later.
comments and their emails directly to the source.
Yeah, please.
Yeah.
Send your comments to Fox.
Get the fuck off Michael's back. Please.
Well, no, just know that there's the desire to do it under the right circumstances, and you know, but.
Well, the show changed, as I was saying at the top, how drama could be done. You know, the way that Mad Men sort of, in a heartbeat, branded a movie showing network in the case of AMC. There was a sense where FX was sort of floundering like, all right, we're this half-sister to the Fox network, now what? And it just sat there like a cold turd. And everyone was like, I don't know what this thing is.
Right. I said to Kevin Riley and Peter Liguori, who were the presidents of the network at the time, before I signed on, the last thing, when I won the role,
Right.
I said to them, okay, are we going to make this script?
Right.
Because if I show up on day one, and I was at a particular place in my career at that time, I needed to reinvent. I needed to get away from the roly-poly, affable guys, and I needed to do something adult and smart.
Yeah.
And I said to them, if we're going to make this, I'm in. But if I get there on day one, I swear to God, if the pink pages come in and it's the boiled down, pussified version of this,
You've added water?
I'm the fuck out.
Yeah.
I'm out. I will quit, and I mean it.
Right.
And Peter Liguori said to me, we'll go further. We're swinging for the fence here, and we're either going to be the heroes of the universe or we're going to shit the bed and die. Words to that effect. You know, but he was
Here's hoping
basically,
that's an exact quote.
That's not. But basically,
Yeah.
he said, we're going to go for it.
And he
here.
came through.
Yeah, well, his first 3 shows were The Shield, what's the Nip Tuck,
Yeah.
and Rescue Me.
Hello.
That's a 3-shot combo, right?
It really is.
He's an amazing guy and remains a dear friend, and it's just a guy who's able to identify great material and great. He loves the collaborative, and he loves to put a bunch of great people together, and talk about branding. And we saw all of a sudden all these imitators and everything, but what the most tectonic shift that it had caused was all of a sudden on basic cable, there was this little show on an nth of the budget of the HBO premium shows.
Better believe it.
That gave them all a black eye. All of a sudden, I'm standing there with an Emmy in my hand and then a Golden Globe, and the show has a Golden Globe.
Right.
When we won the Golden Globe for Best Show,
Yep.
you've been in that room, there was an audible gasp.
I was watching, and I remembered it.
An intake of air that I will never forget in my life.
Yes.
And if I was one of them, I contributed to that gasp.
It's funny that yours was, of course, excited beyond belief. But it's funny for all the competitiveness that takes place in a room like that, that none of those people could actually mask their true feelings. Because when
that's what I mean, you know, with all this collective savvy in that room, that they didn't just mum it. You know what I mean? It was unbridled fucking shock. You got to be shitting me.
It was the biggest WTF.
FX exactly. And that same night, I'm talking on the podium with a bunch of people afterwards when you go backstage, and I look, and there's Peter and Kevin. I shouldn't tell the story.
Sure. They're not watching.
They're leaning against the back wall, and they're absolutely slack-jawed. They're leaning against the wall in the back of the house. And I slip behind my fellow castmates, run around the paparazzi and everybody, and I go, fucking go with it. Because they needed to look cooler than that. They needed to look like, fucking right.
That's right. We belong here.
Yeah, exactly. You know, and it was so funny. We share that story still to this day, and we laugh about it. And it was really an amazing time. And then all of a sudden, the next year, every single basic cable company was doing scripted series.
Yep.
Huge shift.
Absolutely. It was a moment in television history, without question.
I sort of liken it to that time when Sundance was pure, and You know what I mean? And then all of a sudden it just became like, well, there were all these really cool independent companies.
Sure.
Because FX was essentially an independent film company. What they did was, here's the amount of money you have, here's the amount of time you have, go ahead and make it.
Yeah, do what you want.
And we went, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
We were like little children, you know?
Yeah.
It was just an incredibly exciting time. I don't know. I think that, like anything else, the pendulum swings, and there will be, there'll be opportunities to do that. I think you're in that frontier right now.
Well, what you're describing is indeed taking place. The interwebs is considered to be the new version of indie film and independent thinkers, because there's no restraints whatsoever. Or no entity to answer to. So there's a bit of the Wild West going on for sure.
But of course, there's the freak out about revenue stream.
And then the next phase, which is exponentially growing every 6 months, depending on who you're talking to. Like 2 years ago, when I did the first web series, co-writing with our dear friend Jason Antoon, there was very little money to be had for the budget, and very little money to set up distribution,
right.
and brand, sort of hand-in-hand cooperation.
Right.
Now, 2 years later, in just that short period of time, not even 2 years, there's talks of close to $500,000 for a budget to shoot 10 episodes of a web series with ad revenue share.
And where is it going to be in 2 more years?
Exactly. I mean, you talk about being only limited by your imagination.
It's really an exciting time, man.
Kiefer Sutherland, who, had a wonderful film career, changes the course of his career with the television show 24. Yeah. What is the very next thing that he does as a creative entity? He creates and stars in a web series called The Confession that debuted on Hulu, where 10 episodes can be seen now. That speaks about as loudly to me, if that's where Kiefer Sutherland wants to go with his next opportunity. Now, granted, he turned right around, and is shooting a pilot for the network, and he's going to thrive at his day job.
Sure.
But if he wants total creative control, so that's what you guys had with FX. You had the support from the 2 executives who said, we're going to go further, we're going to go harder, we're going to go deeper.
Right.
You guys go off, you have no money, you have 16-hour days, go and fucking do.
Yeah.
And you're in a foxhole and numb.
Right.
Basically.
Right. And by the way, in urine-soaked alleys in the worst places that I didn't even know existed.
In Los Angeles.
So it really felt like that. You know what I mean? We were doing indie, handheld and steady, real guerrilla filmmaking, and it just was such a creative turn on, man.
Every actor has a foolish fantasy about being number one on the call sheet, but when it happens on a television show like this, where you're not only in just about every shot, but you've got no money on top of it in which to shoot, just to open some eyes and minds to the reality, not the, hey, it was tough out there. Nah, it wasn't that bad of a deal. You'll never hear me complain. Fuck all that. Give me, because one of the things I was reading was you would start a new episode midweek, so there was really no over the weekend to recover from the last episode you shot, which I found to be astounding. So, but how many episodes? 13?
13.
Okay.
But in a blur.
So give me as much of a specific day in, day out. First of all, at this point, you've got a wife and both kids already in place as you start The Shield, right?
Yeah.
They're already a member of the team.
That's right.
And you say, honey, we're going for it.
Yeah.
She reads the script. She says, holy shit, you have to do this. You go after it with a vengeance. You get the fucking job. Yeah. You get the support from the network. And it's that last moment of The Candidate starring Robert Redford when he gets elected and says, now what?
Yeah.
Sitting on the edge of the bed in the hotel room.
Right.
So you start this fucking job saying, hell or high water. You'd already been number one on the call sheet with the Commish. You thought you knew what it meant to do a 1-hour drama.
Yeah.
But now you've got no money, and you've got the streets of Los Angeles, and you've got a mandate.
Honestly, and I'm not just being Mr. Humble Pie here. The absolute truth of the matter is that Scott Brazil, God rest his soul, was the executive producer who they put with Sean, because Sean had never run a show before.
Right.
So Sean was the auteur, the guy writing the words, and incredibly well. But here you have Scott Brazil, multiple Emmy and Golden Globe Award winner from the Hill Street Blues days and St. Elsewhere and all these wonderful shows. Incredible producer. Without him, I don't think the Shield would have happened.
No way.
Especially with and I said to him one time, what's your criteria for hiring? And he said, here's the way I look at it. You could be the most talented person in the world, but if you're a prick, you're not getting the gig.
Nice.
Conversely, if you're the loveliest person in the world and you can't cut the gig, you're not getting the gig.
Right.
So I start with, are you a fundamentally decent human being, and can you cut it?
Right.
And if that's your criteria, then all of a sudden you're setting an atmosphere where you have a group of like-minded individuals all running towards one specific goal together.
Yeah.
Team.
Yep.
Going back to the team.
Absolutely.
And I went, oh, this guy, I want to fucking shove my tongue down this guy's throat right now. Oh, sorry. I mean, I love that. That's making me happy.
Sure.
So then you get a Clark Johnson who walks in, who under those pressure the pilot was just a pressure cooker, right? To deliver this pilot, that was so brilliant on paper, and we all knew it.
He's your director.
He's the director of the pilot, and he was the perfect sort of counterpoint because, I don't. Do you know him, Clark? Clark's like a cat, man. He literally he calls me Chicks.
Yeah.
Everybody calls me Chick or Chicky. He calls me Chicks, or a meat puppet. and he.
I'm gonna go with Chicks.
He was the perfect. First of all, he had the brilliant vision of saying, all right, the camera's going to be the fifth man. The camera's going to be one of you guys. And camera's reactive. If camera's here and you start talking, I want camera, even if it's take 5, I want you to wait until he starts talking and go, what? And what? So get there late. React to it like you're a person in a room.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, okay.
That POV
I see
is
what
so
he's getting.
awesome.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, and so it was such a collaborative thing. Now, you ask about number one, inclusiveness. My whole thing on the Shield was I put my hands on everybody's shoulders and made them feel welcome and said, hey, listen, you're the guest this week. We're here for you. You're going to kill. Because I knew I had these experiences as a young actor going, guesting on all these different very popular series. Seinfeld and all
Murphy
these things.
Brown.
Right. Now, on the upside, you did something like Murphy Brown. You had Candice Bergen.
Hello.
Who was...
Forget it. Yep.
The consummate pro made me feel welcome, and and as a result, I was able to just throw down and feel comfortable and kill. Mm-hmm. And she was smart enough to know that if I'm good and everybody else is good, the whole thing rises. The cake rises, and she looks like gold, right? And then there were other shows that I don't need to mention, where it was narcissism and it's all about me, and I like that line. I'm taking that line. What?
Yeah.
You just can't believe the behavior and the bullshit.
Right.
And very successful, popular series.
Sure.
Does it hold up? No.
Right.
But,
Bad people do well.
Yeah, happens.
This is a business for that.
Happens, but it's also goes to how do you want to live your life?
Absolutely.
And I personally, life's too short, Ben, for me. That shit. I want to go to work and have a great time with people and enjoy myself and have them enjoy themselves.
Team.
Yeah, man. I love team sports, and I love and again, I don't mean to shuffle it off. Yeah, I did my shit. Yeah, I brought a lot to the dance on the Shield. I led by example. The fish does rot from the head.
Right.
I like to think that I didn't allow myself any bullshit behavior, so no one else was allowed to take that cue.
Right.
And again, inclusiveness, so that everybody felt, valued. And
well, all that's going on.
Yeah.
And it's the only way for you to make it the best possible experience for yourself and for everyone else involved. You liken the job part of it, the actual doing of it, the acting, the work, as being a wet towel at the end of the night that you wring out.
Yeah.
And so the sense of 14, 16-hour days, what have you, day in, day out during this process, to play arguably one of the most intense characters you'll probably ever do with that sort of consistency from beginning to end, not only of every day but of every season. How do you not take that shit home? How do you flip a switch on the drive home every night?
All right, I'm gonna credit that to craft. I had a great professor, acting professor in college, and I really go right to him, Jim Spruill, who recently just passed away.
Boston U.
Boston University School of Fine Arts, and he used to say, when you come here, leave your bags at the door, and if you can't, use your bags in here, but don't poison the place, don't pollute the place with your shit. Conversely, when you leave, I don't care if you have to physically shake yourself, shower, do whatever you need to do. Absolutely, learn to compartmentalize. Oh, hello. It's okay. I have allergies too. Learn to compartmentalize. You know, what is fact and what is fiction. You know, there are actors. He was such a cat, man. I dug him because he believed in acting as a craft, and that, you know, he and I would have talks about this, how we would bristle at terms like the method. That there are many methodologies of approaching a script, and you know, whether you're studying Meisner or Stanislavski or Uta Hagen, whoever. You study all these things. There are tools in your toolkit. You know, you're not going to use an Allen wrench when, you know, you need a ratchet. You know what I mean? They're different tools. Yeah. Okay? Are you going to approach a Molière comedy in the same way that you approach, you know, The Shield? I don't think so. Or at least I don't.
Right.
I mean, it might be an interesting exercise, but, you know, you probably land on your ass. So,
Turning it off every night on the way home.
yeah, you have to be able to make that distinction. Otherwise, you become what I refer to as a methadone actor. Right. You know, where, you know, listen, we've all run across them, these guys that get so involved in it that they...
It seems narcissistic to me.
Yeah, it's masturbatory, and it doesn't work any better.
No.
And, you know, the unfortunate thing is a lot of people who don't understand the craft go, oh, that was unbelievable, and they nurture that kind of horseshit.
Or Olivier says to Dustin Hoffman in Marathon Man, why don't you try acting, dear boy?
Right.
Yeah.
Right, and go home.
Yeah.
And be a person in the world.
Right.
I live, Kevin, partly to dispel the fucking myth that somehow to be a great artist, you have to be a psycho, fucking disturbed person.
Yeah.
You don't.
Right.
That's horseshit.
Right. Like it. I insist on bringing in our audience on occasion to offer up some live questions, sir. I realize we've hit the 1 hour moment, so I thought I would bring in this one from the Twitter universe.
An hour? Has it been an hour?
Buddy, you can't believe it. You can't believe it happens that fast.
Wow.
At Lady Diode, one of our fave regulars here on the Twitterverse, has offered this tweet 5.
Team 5, Team 5, Team 5 forever now.
Thank you, Dave Keckner.
He's hilarious, Dave.
The tweet 5 is 5 rapid-fire questions, this or that, Coke or Pepsi, no correct answer.
Okay.
They are specifically designed for you by our viewers. Tweet 5, number 1, superhero or rogue cop?
Rogue cop.
Larry or Moe?
Larry.
Bruins or Red Sox?
Red Sox.
Stones or Zeppelin?
Zeppelin.
I'm gonna totally fail here. Pankration or Muay Thai?
What?
Muay Thai?
Muay Thai. Muay Thai.
Muay Thai.
Muay Thai.
Pankration is the...
When all else fails,
different forms
ask
of
the Asian.
Different forms of martial arts.
What's the first
fighting.
one? The Pankration. Pankration.
I'm really not familiar with it, but I am familiar with Muay Thai.
Muay Thai. I know if part of your, thank you, Lady Diode. Part of your dossier said something about studying some martial arts, but I thought there was some Greek background in some of that as well. No,
Not with martial arts. I'm a Greek.
Right.
I'm actually lesbian by descent. We're from the island of Lesbos. I'm sorry, but it's true. If it's the island
What are you
of
gonna
Lesbos
do?
where
It's
the
true.
name comes from.
Yeah.
But I'm also Spartan too.
Right.
Those are the people that can walk 1,500 miles in one direction, killing people the whole way.
Mm-hmm. I can't imagine why you're competitive.
They're tough
Makes no
people.
sense at all.
No, the Greek part of it is just a bloodline thing. But Muay Thai, I just was training with this cat, and he's a Muay Thai kickboxing champion. He was ranked 5th in the world, Johnny Hunt, and he, oh God, yeah, they use fists, elbows, knees, and feet are their weapons, and
all equally dangerous.
It's not okay when they come at you.
It's not okay.
It's not okay. It sucks. What a pen! I have to comment.
It's the first
on
time
the
I've
size
used.
And
It's the first time I've used the pen on the show.
It's been distracting me.
And I swear to you, I did not bring it so that it would be asked, so that I might tell this story.
It's from a period piece. Go.
But I will tell you, it's going to come off, I fear, a little self-involved, self-rewarding, self-important, and so I offer up all those qualifiers and swear that I just wanted to use it. But I will. So
think it's
I'm
great.
on the set of rehearsal of the A Few Good Jews, and
What is that?
A Few Good Men, and
all right.
and so Tom Cruise.
I thought you were doing a parody of it. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, I often do. Tom Cruise is writing in his script with this pen, or a one exactly like it. And so Demi and I immediately, Demi Moore, and I start teasing and tormenting him, saying, did they not make a bigger pen? Why would you settle with such a little tiny thing? It's absurd. What's the matter with you? Why don't you get a grown-up pen? Why
Right.
must you use the baby pen?
Right.
And then he would laugh, and then he would say, you've got to write with this fucking pen. You've just got to do it.
The Cadillac.
And he
of
said,
pens.
it said that, and so we didn't want to write with it. You do go ahead and scribble while I continue telling the story, just to get with a sense of it. So I continued teasing the fuck out of him, and it really is ridiculous, isn't it? So I'm
Velvety.
It is velvety. So I'm torturing him with this, and I won't let it go because now I've got like the perfect audience. Because every time I make fun of him, he's laughing ridiculously. So I say, so he says, he insists that we use it like I have with you. And I'm doing what you're doing. And now I'm going, I can't stop writing with this thing. This is crazy, ridiculous. So 3 days later, he literally wrote, I love this fucking pen. So 2 days later, there's a knock on my trailer door. I open it up, and one of Tom's
Don't tell me.
assistants hands me a box. I open it up, this teak box. And inside of the teak box is a brand new one of these pens. And I immediately shit myself. And I burst over his trailer. You're a fucking maniac. I wasn't teasing you to get one. No, dude, it's the greatest thing ever. So later that day, at rehearsal, I'm writing in my script, but not with the pen, with a different pen. And Tom comes up behind me and goes, where the fuck's the pen, buddy? And I said, are you stupid?
I'm not going to
That
use
pen
that
goes
here.
on the mantle.
Right, exactly.
That's
I'm
the
not-
Tom Cruise pen. I don't use the pen. I might lose it. I can never use that pen. Don't you understand what you've
Exactly.
done?
I'm
You've
gonna have
given
it
me a
embossed.
trophy. You haven't given me a...
It'll have a placard underneath it.
Yeah, there's going to be a pin light
yeah.
hitting it just right. This is the story pen.
Exactly.
He laughs.
It's funny.
I wish the story were over. 2 days later, open the door, same assistant,
Here's the one you
similar
used.
box, and he says, Tom wants you to use the first one. I'm not kidding, I have 2 of these now. Now, by the way, in no way, shape, or form was he showing off. He was literally saying, I get it, and I want you to use the fucking pen.
Wow.
So put this one on the mantle, and please use this fucking pen.
cool is that?
It was the smallest little example of how insanely generous he ended up being in the whole experience. I'm being brought up to the majors at that point in my life. This is 20 years ago, 1991.
Right.
I am literally Where's Waldo in this cast, dude. You know that feeling when you get on a set and you're the lucky one, right?
Yeah.
So I'm brought up to the majors, and number one on the call sheet is saying, "You're an equal. Let's work now." So I was just. I'm a comedian. I'm thinking, someone's going to tap me saying, "Get the fuck out of here. We made a horrible error.
JK.
We meant Kevin Spacey. You're not supposed to be
LOL,
here."
as my kids would say.
Yeah, exactly. So, anywho, that is the story of the pen.
That's genius.
And,
I'm glad I brought it up. I mean,
and then, as soon as
Fantastic.
the ink in the pen ran out, about a year or so later, I put them away in their teak boxes, never to be used again.
it has shock absorption.
It does.
It does.
It
The
literally
head has shock absorption. This motherfucker is smooth.
It's crazy.
It has
they don't make the pen
shocks.
anymore. And
Of course they don't.
yeah, no, of course not. Of course they don't. They stopped making that rolls. I want to talk a little bit about the equity card at 13. We're going to dance around a little bit. The equity card at 13 is beyond the first thing we talked about, which was the 5-6-year-old doing impersonations and making his family laugh and then bringing it to school and having a sense of the beginning of what I call "hey, look at me" disease, which we all clearly suffer from.
Yeah.
Kind sir, may I refresh on your
Please.
beverage?
Oh, that would be
Look
fabulous.
at this.
Look at that. Wow.
Thanks to Jamie, we have a pitcher standing by.
Look at you.
And about 8 times out of 112 have I reached down, but it's so nice to know it's there.
I love
Thank
that
you,
you would
Jamie.
even bring this up.
But seriously, dude, this is huge to me because I took the I can do impersonations and be funny at age 6 and performed bits and stuff all through the school systems, but I never said, I'm going to step out of the school systems. I'm going to go to
Yeah, but we all have that luck of having certain professors or certain mentors or
Yes.
people in your life.
Tell me.
And at that particular stage of my life, I did a 9th grade production of MASH, and I played Hawkeye.
Holy
okay?
shit.
Yeah.
What school is doing MASH, first of all?
Which was pretty incredible when I think of it.
It's completely,
Yeah, right.
there wasn't a
It's
play?
crazy. Yeah, at Andover High, Andover Junior High.
Oh, my.
West Junior High. Yeah. You know,
So
that's
hip.
the first time I ever thought of how you just pointed out to me. We did MASH in 9th grade, which is fucking crazy when I think of it.
It's one thing for your
Anyway.
dad to say,
Yeah.
I want you to watch this movie.
Some really
and
hit
that
people.
movie.
Anyway, there was a local summer stock theater called Salem Town and Country Playhouse,
Right.
Salem, New Hampshire.
Right.
And the woman who cast from there was in the audience. And she came up to me after the show and she said, hey, you know, we do summer stock up here.
You're
and
13.
I'm 13 years old.
Jesus.
So I auditioned. It was just in the spring, so the summer was coming, and I auditioned, and here
Romeo and Juliet?
I get into the summer stock.
Oh, just
that
the theater
year.
group.
Okay, in the theater group, and it's summer stock, so it's not equity.
Okay.
And the director of the first production happens to become my mentor, this guy named Mark Kaufman, who just, I don't know why, I think he saw something in me and he thought I was kind of this hot shit 13-year-old kid who knew himself. And
He
knew
saw
enough.
the Spartan.
He saw something. I don't know. He was seeing things. Anyway, Mark and I started to talk and became friends. And he would drop me off on the way home. He drove me home, and he became friends with my father and mother. And, you know, next thing you know, during the course of that summer, we would have barbecues. He would come over to the house and talk. And one day we were sitting around the kitchen table, and he said, when you guys go to see theater here, where do you go, like to see professional theater? And my mother, who studied opera, incidentally, was a mezzo-soprano, phenomenal voice, at the New England Conservatory of Music. She said, well, we go down to Boston and we go to the Schubert or whatever, and the touring shows go there. And he said, but there's nothing in the Merrimack Valley where you can go and see repertory theater? And she said, no. And he said, do you think that this area would support that kind of thing? And I jumped out of my seat and was like, yeah, I think it will, absolutely.
Right.
So we embarked on opening the Merrimack Repertory Theater. And I was, you know, I always say I helped open that theater, which I did. But it was Mark Kaufman's, to be clear. It was Mark Kaufman's theater. He started that theater. But I, at the tender age of 13, I remember being on scaffolding and pretending I was Michelangelo while painting the ceiling of the old University of Lowell South Theater, which we got for a song because it was abandoned and no one was using it.
Holy shit.
And an 800-seat Victorian theater.
Oh my God.
And that next, 1 year later, in the fall, we opened with Romeo and Juliet, because it's always good luck to open a theater with Romeo and Juliet, they say. And I played like Samson, you know that. I bought my fama you, sir, that guy, you know.
That jackass.
Yeah, that jackass. That jack-off. And thus started my run in equity theater and regional theater. And
A theater that thrives to this day?
yeah, 30, how many every years later, 35
What's that feel
plus.
like, by the way? A little bit?
A little bit.
Not bad.
How you doing?
Man, not bad. Seriously.
Yeah.
Now, you talk about your bizarre segues. Before we get back to another tweet 5 that I see has popped up, thank you, Jamie. You mentioned it's good luck on the Romeo and Juliet,
Yeah.
and this having to do with you getting your equity card and ultimately launching the next phase of your acting career.
Yeah.
And we mentioned our mutual friend, Jason Antoon.
Yes.
So, as I've done a few times in the past, I've reached out to someone who I knew was friendly and might have specific insights regarding today's guest. And I reached to Jason and I said, do you have a question for my guest today? I thought you might have
God.
a question that only you would ask. And we both know what a subversive, fantastic son of a bitch he truly is. So,
My heart rate's up.
Yep. He asked this question, keeping in mind the transition from which we come. To be or not to be, that is the question. Now, the real question is, was that line written by Shakespeare or Edward de Vere? De Vere.
De Vere.
Yeah. Tell us.
Edward de Vere, the 17th Earl of Oxford. I'm one of those guys. I'm not a conspiracy theorist. God damn it. Let me preface this with.
Talk to us
I am
as if we don't know at all actually what you're talking about.
I think the biggest literary fraud in the history of mankind is that people believe that Shakespeare wrote the canon of plays, known as Shakespeare's plays. I believe that he was a country bumpkin who wrote nothing. He wrote 2 things that we know. He wrote his last will and testament, which if you've read it, it's not the voice of the bard. Yes, it's a legal document, but there are spelling errors, and it's written by someone with a 4th grade education, which is what he had. On record, 4th grade education. He traveled from Stratford to London and back in his entire life. He could not, you cannot, I don't care if you, people want to believe that genius can spring from nowhere. And that's great, yes. And someone that was certainly a boy from Stratford could have been a genius. But you cannot learn French, Italian, Latin, Greek, and English fluently through osmosis in a vacuum. You must have access to the texts, and he wasn't even gentrified. If you look at it from an investigative journalist sort of approach or a detective's approach, it's impossible.
Fantastic.
It's impossible he didn't write anything.
How did you first discover what is known among a very specific group of...
The idea was introduced to me when I was a teenager. I was like 17 years old, and I heard, I saw this Bacon is Shakespeare. And I was like, Bacon is Shakespeare? Who's what? And it was Sir Francis Bacon. Someone was claiming that it was Sir Francis Bacon, which it's not. And I sort of thought, wow, that's interesting. And then I started to delve into it in college. And, my one of my professors, forgive me, I'm burping into the mic. That's really wonderful. Sorry.
It's encouraged, actually.
Yeah,
Meant the meal was good.
One of my professors was a real, orthodox, scholarly type, and he was like, it was Shakespeare, end of story.
Shut the fuck up.
Shut up, I don't want to hear that crap. And it wasn't until many, many years later I read this book called Shakespeare by Another Name. And it was written by an investigative journalist.
Oh, I love that.
And every hairstyle. I was reading it on vacation by a pool, and I was like, "Oh my God!" You know, it was revelatory. I mean, it's kind of a you know, dry read to be sure, but it's people. I'm not one of the. I'm a very grounded. You know, I'm not a conspiracy theorist.
You've worked with Oliver Stone,
you know,
but you're not Oliver Stone.
Right, exactly. I've been briefly for a day. I'm not into any of that shit. I think most of that is just people reaching. But if you look at this,
as an investigative study.
Well, yeah. If you look at it as if I were a juror.
Right. Exactly. Good point.
With my arms folded.
And the evidence is presented.
You know, they say beyond a shadow of a doubt, right? Unless you think OJ didn't do it, okay, then fine. We have nothing else to talk about. But Shakespeare didn't write shit.
The glove didn't fit.
He didn't write shit. He didn't. He's a kid who went down, and people say, why? Why? You know, first of all, why isn't his name on any of the folios? And what was his motivation for it? And I'll give you the two. One seems pretty vapid to us in modern day, but it's actually a very, very substantial thing. It was thought below a royal station to be a lowly writer of plays. A.
Yeah.
Okay.
Not imaginable today, but it's important to factor in.
Yes. Now, but that's not the biggest reason, but that is a very substantive reason. But most importantly, people don't realize that Elizabeth, a smart broad, sorry, I shouldn't use that word.
Yeah. When you're talking about a queen, you mean?
Yes. Queen Elizabeth was a crafty lady, and she survived 50-odd years as queen as a Protestant in the Catholic Europe.
Yeah.
And every single day there were plots to kill this woman. And her favorite writer, her favorite scribe, was one Edward de Vere, who was the genius poet, they called him, all these different things. And if I were this man, and I wrote plays when she came to me and said, listen, you're going to write history plays, because remember, the theater is the propaganda, talk about propagandizing. The theater is the propaganda stage of the world at that point, not television and radio. Obviously, it's the theater.
Yeah.
So you're going to write love letters to the House of Tudor, my house. And that's what he did. And if I were the writer of plays like Richard III, I would not put my fucking name on it. Because if tomorrow they whack this lady,
you're dead.
The first guy that they're going to come to is, who wrote these plays?
Where's this dickhead?
Oh, I'm sorry, I should say, who wrote these fucking plays, mate? You know, right? And they're going to go, you got to think of it from a practical, pragmatic, you know, grounded in reality situation, which is, you know.
Did they find a patsy? Is that what's happening here?
Fuck, you're right. Here's this blowhard who comes down from Stratford, right? You know, and he wants to be somebody. So they go, okay, kid, here's what you're going to do. You can take credit for the plays. Remember, the biggest part he ever played was Hamlet's father's ghost. The biggest role Shakespeare ever played.
Right, on stage.
On stage. This is a kid who's not even gentrified, doesn't have a coat of arms. We're going to give you a coat of arms. We're going to set you up, kid. We're going to make it all right. But
they don't even know the sort of history that will be attached to his name at that point.
No.
They're just making his life easier.
Yeah. But what happens if you read the book? Well, once...
Tell us the name of the book again.
Shakespeare by Another Name.
Write that down. Shakespeare by Another Name.
Yeah.
Has any attempt at a movie version of this book been?
I bought the rights to the book for a while there, and I went to HBO. HBO wanted to do it, but because I'm an American, they insisted on having me pair with a British company, like the BBC or whatever.
You said, fuck that.
Well, I was happy to try to get
not?
a British company to do it with me. Try to get a British company
to say
to
Shakespeare's
agree.
Bullshit doesn't exist.
Heroes die hard, man. Yeah. And people don't, you know.
you know what Brit might have that sort of interest, who's hilariously subversive? You're Ricky Gervais.
Oh, yeah.
And Eddie Izzard, brilliant atheists, both of them.
Yes.
who may in
brilliant
fact
comedians.
want to send up the great word of Shakespeare. That'd be an interesting angle. I'm going to put you in,
Guys, you listen.
I'm going to put you in touch. You know what I'm saying?
Put me in touch.
I'm going to make these things come together. The Shakespeare film is called Anonymous, came out in 2011. Coming out.
Yeah, and that's what it's about.
Is it?
Yeah, it's coming out. You know, and I tried to get ahead of this thing, and now who's
behind it? Give us
the director?
some director and.
Come on, he's a wonderful director. Roland Emmerich.
Wow.
Roland Emmerich.
Holy shit.
You know, I knew about this project about halfway through when I was pitching to British companies.
Right.
And just failed. It's an epic fail on my part, I have to say. I should have reached out to certain high-profile Oxfordians at the time. That I didn't do that, and I should have, you know. Geez, I'm trying to think of Jacoby. I should have, who was involved with Roland's piece, as it turns out. He wrote the foreword to Shakespeare by Another Name. But I just thought it was incredibly fascinating. The thing is, you could see motive. You know, you can see.
It sounds like a great murder mystery. Honestly.
It's so phenomenal when from the kid. This kid becomes a ward of the state as a child when his father dies. The 16th Earl of Oxford dies. He becomes the 17th Earl as a child, and it becomes a ward of the state. And it basically is raised in the court, and he is exposed to the greatest literary scholars in the world.
Right.
He's exposed to all of these different languages. He is versed in law. You know, I mean, for you to write...
And languages.
Yeah, and languages, which you'd have to be to have written that canon. You'd have to be. You know, and not this kid from fucking the countryside who never left the continent.
Right.
I'm sorry. I believe that let's even say for the sake of argument that Shakespeare himself had a genius IQ.
Crazy, nutty prodigy.
Crazy, nutty prodigy. He still can't learn and avoid.
Right.
He can't. Unless you prove it to me. And just by virtue of the fact that his name's not on it. Oh, here's the most compelling thing to me. And this is where I knew it was true. Knew it. You know as well as I do as an actor and as a comedian, everybody has a voice. Every artist has a voice. Every true artist, okay?
Absolutely.
Go and read Edward de Vere's letters. When you read his letters, every hair in your body will stand up because that's the bard's voice.
Holy shit.
That's the guy. When you read Bacon's material or Marlowe or any of those guys from the period, no, it's not him. It's not the same.
Right.
It's not that voice. But when you read his words, you go, holy shit. Especially someone like myself who studied Shakespeare, you know, went to college and studied Shakespeare, and that's my, you know, people don't realize Shakespeare's my forte. You know, I've never been in a fucking period movie.
That
How did
is
that
shocking.
happen?
That is shocking to me.
You know, so the voice.
I love every square inch of that, sir, and I thank you for sharing it. Seriously. No, listen, Antoon told me, my friend...
Yeah, I went off one day to him
you were
about
about to get
an
an insight into something, and I said,
Yeah.
I know nothing of this world. I came up literally through stand-up comedy.
Yeah.
And people who listen and watch this show know I'm not proud of this, but I had no formal training as an actor. I learned during the audition process.
School of life, man.
And then I learned on the set from the
Yeah.
greats. So for anyone who studied with the sort of passion that you clearly did, in this case, with Shakespeare, I wanted to hear as much as you wanted to share, so I thank you for that.
Oh, my pleasure.
Honestly.
Now it's out. I've never spoken of that publicly. I wanted to speak of it publicly at the opening of this project, but it hasn't come together, and now
Well, when was
Roland
the book
got
written?
it out in front of me.
When was the book written that you read? 4 or 5 years ago, more?
6, 7 years ago.
Right.
And you know, and then I picked up the
And
rights
was
to it
that
and
the
tried
first-
for like 3 years to get it made. And
But was that book, was that the first sort of...
no, there are Oxfordians dating back to the time of Shakespeare. This is a constant thing. People have been in the Oxford camp since the day. I mean, there are letters you'll read. If you read all these letters with it, they call Shakespeare the poet ape.
Wow.
You know, and being a mimic, you know that aping is
Sure.
Right. I just think it's a sidebar fascination for me. I just think, wow, isn't that amazing? Wouldn't that be an amazing fraud to uncover?
Right.
That this incredible literary genius was a fraud.
It's pretty great. It really is pretty great.
And his story, De Vere's story, is phenomenal.
Right.
It's phenomenal and matches up perfectly, incidentally,
Right.
with all the plays.
Molière thought he had it tough.
Yeah.
Here's another tweet 5 for you, sir, from a fan. You can't get enough of the Keckner, right? This from @Christopher Rodig.
That's genius.
From @Christopher Rodig. Tweet 5, no correct answer, this or that. Ready? Mm-hmm. Number 1, Daddy-O or No Ordinary Family?
No Ordinary Family?
These are not supposed to be easy. Tony Scalia, Vic Mackey.
Vic Mackey.
Come on, what are we talking about? Directing or acting?
Acting?
Fantastic Four 1 or 2?
1.
Patriots or Red Sox? Got you there. You're fucked.
No.
Who knows I'm a monkey?
I won't answer.
Oh. Those are all correct answers.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
The
Talk to me about...
Daddy-O, No Ordinary Family, no, too.
Yeah, talk to me about directing or acting. Talk to me about directing.
I guess we all grow and look, I've been acting professionally since I was 13 years old. Love it, my first love, my passion, always will do it. But you want to try other things, and I love filmmaking.
Right. Well, as you said, you've always been bugging the DP.
Yeah,
you've always been asking the
fascinated.
questions.
Yeah, so
at some point you're going to want to take the reins.
Yeah, and I love telling stories.
Right.
And anybody who can hold court and sit and tell stories.
Doesn't sound Greek at all.
Right, exactly. The idea of being able to tell stories, not just with, your mouth, but with sound and pictures and music and everything else is just incredibly exciting, you know. So I think there'll be more of that as I get older. And, and there's some things you also get to a point where you have things to say. Right. Because you've lived a bit now and you have experience and you feel like you're in a place where you can actually contribute in some way and say something, relevant. Right. For the longest time, I was sort of an observer, and as gregarious as I was, I'm terrified of thinking that I ever have everything wired. Like I have it all figured out. I don't, and I won't. And
who wants to?
Right, exactly. Yeah. So, and I also want to always have that in terms of being hungry to learn and take stuff in and be a better artist and be a better actor and musician. So, but there is a time in your life where you start to feel like, you do have enough under your belt that you can tell some stories and say some things and with some clarity and really get behind it. Right.
Yeah. And are there actual projects? I know there's one that you and your wife were involved in your real life, a Madoff-esque.
Yeah, I can't believe it. I got Ponzi'd. I did.
But there was a fictional version that you had set up somewhere at FX.
Yes, no? We set it up and we started to. I hired a writer and we started to develop the pilot. And we were about halfway through writing the pilot script, and the Madoff scandal broke. Right. And every reality show from CNBC to whatever. This is everything, and we were still 6 months out. And I just felt like I hate being behind anything. I just hate it.
Well, once the Madoff thing broke, it was Madoff and everybody else.
It put a face to all of it, right? And then the fatal blow to the project was, in all honesty, the writer, who will be nameless, went into the hole to write the pilot. And when he came out, I read it, and it had nothing to do with what he and I had talked about and developed. It was about Bernie Madoff.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, what happened here?
Yeah, no shit.
And he said, you know, I took a shot on whether you'd love it or hate it, but I've just become so, can you imagine? And I just went, I fucking hate it.
You needed to be more specific.
We just spent
Jesus Christ.
all these months working on this and this very specific POV, and you made this decision on your own, unbeknownst to me, didn't tell me. I've been waiting on a script, and you sent it to me now, and So that was that, and it just put that whole thing to bed, and then I was behind it, and to go back into development with it, it just, I have to say, in all candor, I have a number of projects in the works as a producer, as a director, and this is an area of my life where I have failed.
Well, there is no failing, not to go Yoda on you. There's only learning. Honestly.
Well, I have been a student, and I have been learning tremendously about this.
But you know it's
one of the
true.
things, yes, and one of the things I've learned is this is common.
Yeah.
It's a common thread. I've talked to.
Oh yeah, don't feel special.
No, I do not.
No, really.
Well, I was feeling special in the bad way.
Yes.
Like,
why am I? Yeah.
You know,
what do I got to do?
What am I not getting right here? And
who am I not blowing?
Hey.
No, but I mean, listen. I have a screenplay that I'm allegedly directing, with Billy Bob Thornton allegedly attached to do the male lead, and we're out making pay-per-play offers to actresses, and when we get one, we're going to do the thing.
Right.
7 years ago, same screenplay, set up at Focus, greenlit.
Yeah.
Starting the casting process, the president of the studio gets fired.
Oh boy,
New
is
guy
this-
comes in, and every piece of literature that's sitting on his desk is literally just like this. And I realized if that hasn't happened to you, you should not be able to join the Directors Guild. Seriously, because everyone I talked to said, "Oh yeah, don't feel special." Honestly,
I had
the revolving door thing. You got fucked. Yeah.
I had a script that was written for me by a wonderful writer. I love the script, and I vow I will get this fucker made one day.
Absolutely.
I love it, and it can be I just think it'll be great.
Yeah.
We had it set up at a small independent house that was in love with the piece, and I finished The Shield, and 2008 happens.
Oh boy.
And no one has any money anymore. And
Literally.
it goes from
It's dried up like desert,
that
instantly.
And again, you're right. I don't think it should be. You can't get in the DGA if you haven't. And I've had it happen to me now a half dozen times.
Right.
But it's always a different set of circumstances and a different reason.
It's another education.
Yeah.
It's another area that you thought you knew and you didn't.
Yeah. So
There's no giving up. By the way.
No, that's the thing. It's the perseverance is the greatest lesson.
Yeah, and you hear stuff like
Forrest Gump was
Gump.
7 years in the making.
Exactly.
Yeah, all that. Yeah, you hear that constantly.
Arthur, one of the greatest comedy scripts that will ever be written, page for page, joke by joke on each page, is almost unbeatable. For 4 years, Steve Gordon was his name. I believe he wrote and directed it. Shopped it for he died shortly after the film came out in his early 30s. Horrible tragedy. He's one of the all-time great comic minds. 4 years they shopped that around town, and everyone said, "Who the fuck thinks it's funny that there's a drunk guy, a drunk rich guy?" Right?
Oh my
God!
God!
How is the
I did
drunk
not
rich
know that.
guy funny?
I did not
Until
know
you
that.
bring in Dudley Moore's performance on paper, everyone who read it for 4 years said, "No one will ever make this."
Right.
It's an obnoxious drunk rich guy that no one could possibly care about.
Right.
What the fuck are you talking about?
Right.
Another prime example of there's no giving up.
Yeah, you just have to keep swinging, and that's the greatest lesson that I've had from all of this. It's just, it's a nut I'm going to crack. I'm determined that there are especially with this one project that I'm just in love with. I think it is, in a word, lovely.
Yeah.
It's one of those. Do you remember The Quiet Man? Do you remember that film?
God, yes.
John Ford film. O'Hara.
Yeah.
And,
I'm trying to remember the year it came out, actually, but yeah, of course.
And The Duke, just a great film. Shades of that film, and just in terms of the relationship between the male lead and the female lead.
Okay.
You
That's
know,
pretty
it's
great
an American
chemistry.
and an Irish woman.
Right.
And
Maureen O'Hara?
Maureen O'Hara.
Yeah.
And it's got shades of The Quiet Man, and then there's a little bit of Waking Ned Divine, and a little Bend It with Beckham because there's a sports element in there, and it's just it's one of these things where these two people are going to get together from like page 10,
Right.
but you don't care. When you read it, you want to see how,
Right.
and you take the ride,
Right.
and you root for them throughout because it's there on the page.
Right.
But the way it goes about getting there is phenomenal and just a great ride. And I love this picture, and I got to
Who
get
wrote
it
the
made.
piece?
Another old friend of mine named Dan McDuffie, and he's in the telecommunications business, but he went to school for screenwriting.
Wow.
In Boston University, and I went to school with him in Andover. I've known him since 7th grade too. Well, it was one of these situations where
I got a script for you, Mikey.
and I went like, oh,
Yeah,
Dan.
absolutely.
When friends send you a script, and
Friends, how about the guy that cleans my pool?
exactly,
No.
everybody, right? And you just cringe, and within 10 pages it was one of these happy accidents where he sends me the script, and I was like, okay, Danny, I'll read it, and it sat for like
Yep.
weeks on my desk, and then I finally never put it down, read it right straight through.
Holy fuck.
Laughed out loud, cried at the end of it, loved it.
Right.
And I called him and I went, fucking Dan,
Yeah.
you killed it.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful script. I want to make it.
Right.
So, first place we brought it to, they bought it. We were going to make it. Going to make it for it's about $10 million.
Right.
Great budget for a small feature.
Huge.
Great.
Yeah.
2008.
Good night.
Good night, everybody.
Yeah, we don't have that checkbook anymore. They took that checkbook.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Michael, you can make the movie now, but it'll be for $1.1 million.
Yep.
I was like,
Yeah, you shut on the Shield. You know what it's like to work for $20.
But
You can
yeah,
do it, can't you? You remember the pilot?
yeah, no, but no, honestly,
Yeah.
I know how to shoot that way, and I'm telling you, you can't make this movie
How about
for
$6
that.
million? Can you do it for $6 million?
Absolutely.
All right, let's
How
go.
about this?
Let's go. If you're
How about
watching
this?
now,
How
you're
about this?
listening.
I can make that movie for $4.5 million.
$4.5 million. What are we talking about, people? Get off your asses and get out those checkbooks. We are not going. We're an hour and 44 minutes into this.
Especially with the Irish tax write-offs, because it takes place in Ireland.
Well, you didn't mention that. You buried the lead. The whole thing takes place in Ireland.
Well,
Stop.
Except for the first 10 pages.
Oh, fine. 92 pages in Ireland. What do you want from us? We're not going to stop streaming live until we've raised $4.5
Oh my God,
million.
I'm talking about things. You know what's amazing about today, and you'll understand, you totally get this too. I can't believe I just talked about that publicly.
I'm pretty fucking happy.
No, I can't fucking believe I just talked about this.
Why?
And named the project and everything. I mean, I can't. No, because just before Twitter,
Right.
and now the interwebs, we couldn't talk about anything like this.
Right.
Or it was uncool, or it was,
You have to be
there was no
protective.
access
Yeah.
to us. You know what I mean? And
What's really going on?
yeah.
Right.
And
that's
I
good.
love it. I love it. I love that because you can create public outcry for things. You can create a taste for things, and you know.
Yeah.
But I'm just blowing my
Isn't that
mind.
how
that I'm
Betty
sitting
White?
here.
How Betty White
Yeah.
ended up hosting SNL?
Yeah. Well, yeah. Which that'll
A
never happen to
historical
me.
moment in her
I'll
life.
never be able to do that, unfortunately.
Let's talk about that, shall we? Because
Now I'm
I
looking at my
remember,
watch.
I remember talking to you about that at the Grand Havana Room one day, and I thought this is because I was one of those people who was warned, do not go in for this meeting when they were meeting all of us at the time. And I do know.
I was not.
Well, yeah,
Warned.
you were not warned, and it's an interesting aspect to the story, what you might have done differently. But you talk about learning through history and not failing. There was a moment early on in your career, actually. You had done mostly episodic stuff prior to the John Belushi thing?
No, no.
You done the Commish already?
No.
No.
The John Belushi story was my first time on camera, period.
Shut the fuck up.
It was my first gig.
Holy crap.
Yeah.
So
I had only done theater up until then.
Right.
I was 24, doing off-Broadway and regional theater in New York.
So this is
It was my
beyond,
first film that I ever auditioned for.
beyond a ridiculous opportunity. It is your first film audition.
Yeah,
That's a little bit of perspective now, isn't it?
yeah, yeah.
Let's shake that into the sauce, just a little.
Ah, dude.
You're 24 years old. The guy lived a little-known life. You talk about letting it all hang out. What was actually known about the guy and what was gathered by Woodward for the book was from an investigative journalistic point of view.
Right.
And the book was read by everyone in the industry and a great deal of people around the world.
Yeah.
Wired. An amazing tome written by this master.
Well,
And loathed by the people who were inside John Belushi's camp. But to the rest of the people on the outside, it seemed like some truth and some facts and some history had been flavored, in, at least from the point of view of this particular investigative journalist.
right. Now I'm going to seem to contradict myself going back to our Edward DeVere conversation. As much as I appreciate investigative reporting, there is a flaw in it at times where a investigative reporter, particularly Bob Woodward,
Right.
is a very Joe Friday kind of a guy. He's just the facts man.
Right.
So when you write about a guy like John Belushi and you just say, John did this and John did that and John did this and this one did that and this one did, ooh, it doesn't look good.
Right. If you wrote that about any of us, by the way.
Right. Well, you know, if you have no flair for prose and you don't insert the humanity of a person through your writing, a story about John Belushi is going to suffer greatly. So I understand very, very, clearly
Sure.
the problem that the inner circle had with this in retrospect. At the time, like you say, you're 24, you're doing, you're telling people what the specials are that evening. That's what you're doing. That's what I was doing. And,
Tending barn, waiting
yeah,
tables.
waiting tables and doing off-Broadway shit. And you get a chance to play one of your childhood idols, no fucking question. You're gonna go do it.
You don't even blink. Are you
No.
kidding? This is an opportunity of a lifetime.
Woo! Yeah. Talk about woo! And then going, oh my God, I have the gig. Yeah, that's the way that went, for sure.
Yeah.
And then the movie didn't come out for a year after we made it. And the moment I walked off of that set, I couldn't get seen for an under 5. Nothing. Everything stopped. Stopped. Dead full stop.
Like being blackballed.
Death threats on my phone machine, all kinds of,
Like, again, you had
craziness.
originated the material. As
Yeah.
if you had created the whole project.
And it's, you know what? Look, I didn't intend to talk about this at all. I mean, this is something that I did have a conversation, a couple of conversations recently about it, only because for the first time I was introduced by Jim Belushi to Judy Belushi recently, all these years later.
You know what?
Finally,
Let's just talk about that.
well, finally I had an opportunity at our children's basketball game. Jim's kid was playing for one team and my kid was playing for the other team, and we had an opportunity for the first time years ago at the Grand Havana Room to talk and sort of make our piece. I just wanted to let him know unequivocally that, look, for whatever political bullshit there was involved in that, I never meant him or his family or anybody any disrespect or harm. It was just important for me to let him know that,
Sure.
and know that, to me, I was going at it from a place of homage, that I loved John and I wanted to honor him. But now I understand, looking at the piece, and I understand how the book read largely as an indictment on the people around him, and I that's sort of
That's lost on you when you read the screenplay at 24 and have an opportunity.
right, exactly. but
I'm
not
sure
lost
Jim
on me
under-
now.
Right.
And yeah, he totally got it, and absolutely he was a gentleman and phenomenal. And when we were at this basketball game, he came over to me and said, "Listen, I want to introduce you to someone. This is my sister Judy," and it hit me. Oh, this is Judy Belushi.
Right.
And we talked, and she couldn't have been more lovely, and just was basically saying, "Look, I just want you to know, I never had a problem with you. I never, it was just that project, and
Sure.
and
They'd wish it never happened.
yeah, exactly.
How could they not?
It was painful and all
Yeah.
that. So
But what a wonderful burden to be lifted after all these years, even though you had done more than put it behind you. It's still a very important closure.
yeah, it was. Yeah, exactly.
Very important.
Exactly. I just, I'm the last thing I'm in this business to do is to harm.
See, you were
to
wrong
her.
about that, Kenny.
Kenny, you at two. Kenny.
Brutus.
You know,
Yeah, of
so-
course, of course.
Yeah. So and
Terrific.
and I'm not saying any of this to suck ass or anything like that. That's bullshit.
Oh, no. These are human experiences and nothing more and nothing less.
Right.
Honest to God.
Right.
Seriously.
Yeah.
And it means a great deal to me that we could talk about it because, believe me, when the dossier is put together, I have people here, and it's never my interest to do anything but to discuss the journey. That's what I'm fascinated with.
Yeah.
That's why I so very much wanted you on the show. But I
Well-
know parts of that journey are nobody's fucking business unless you decide you want to talk about it.
Well,
so whether
that-
or not I'm going to ask
the
or not,
nauseating part of that time period is if everything you've ever aspired to is to be a film and television actor,
Right.
and you are 2 months into you doing your first movie, and you're told that you're done,
This is it. It's over.
and you then sit for the better part of a year and can't get an audition, that will change you. That will put you through some changes. It's an incredibly humbling experience.
Is that part of the time you went back and talked to your old man?
Yeah. But the guy who really rescued me out of all that was Burt Reynolds.
Really?
He was the first one to hire me. He caught wind of it through the focus puller from Wired. And I went down there, and I could tell you this story at length, but the long and short of it is,
You did a TV movie for his company.
yeah.
Right.
But he basically, I won't go into the whole story, but just suffice to say, he hired me at that time when no one would even see me.
Right.
And the day he hired me, the television doors opened wide open again for me. Film remained closed for a decade, which,
Fucking weird.
yeah.
Just fucking weird.
Yeah, I don't know what was behind it. If it was just
The power.
arbitrary, well, people say, was it Ovitz? Did he do it? I don't know.
Yeah.
I really don't know. I'll never know.
He certainly was in a position to if he chose to.
I don't know, and I don't care.
The good news is it don't matter now.
Yeah. I'm happy.
But it was a
to
huge
have
part of
survived
your
it.
life.
So you have to understand, Kevin, when I won the Emmy for The Shield, people thought I was choked up for winning an award.
No.
No,
Not even
it
close.
was so much bigger than that, and so more. It was just a sort of it's okay.
Yeah, because you're voted on by your peers.
Yeah. It just was such a huge tectonic shift in my life. Talk about closure in so many ways.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So,
No, you not only reinvented a genre, you reinvented yourself as an actor. And that's the hardest thing in the world to do.
thank you. Well, I think the thing I'm proudest of through that young experience back then, my instinct was don't fight. Just do the work.
Get
Let
better.
the work speak.
Right.
Be the best you can be. Don't fight. And I didn't lash out publicly. I didn't.
It's true, you didn't.
I
You never said a
did.
fucking word.
Never said a fucking word. And I'm proud of that.
Yeah, because a lot of people would have said, what the fuck did I do?
Well, trust me, a lot of people tried to goad me into doing that.
Right.
And hey, listen, I wasn't without a temper. I mean, I was a Greek-Irish kid from Boston.
That's ridiculous.
And this, you're talking about my life and my career.
Yeah.
And maybe it was because it was that epically important that I did keep my mouth shut, because it meant everything to me.
Right.
And I didn't want to get into a pissing match with forces beyond my control. And people I didn't know, had never heard of. I mean, I had never heard of Michael Ovitz. That's how innocent I was.
Right.
I was a theater rat from Boston. So I just said, shut up, keep your nose down, do your work, and try to do the best work you can do, and hopefully that'll speak.
Right. And it did. It did, you son of a bitch. We're coming up on 2 hours now. How do you like me so far?
Are you shitting me? I gotta go. Is that right?
I've never found a way out of the show better than the guest saying, I've got to go.
I do. I have to go. I can't
That's
believe
my
it.
new favorite ending of the show. I'm going to ask the guest to do whatever. Listen, when we get to the hour 40, if you could say, I got to go.
Am I supposed to just briefly just do...
Larry King game.
Here you go, ready? So I'm interviewing Queen Victoria. And I know, by the way she's looking at me, she's digging me. So I say to her, how about a little exchange? You renovate my house, we'll do a little Victorian number, and I'll work my magic in the bedroom. And now Kevin Pollak back in the studio.
Nice. Thank you, sir, so very much for every square inch of it.
Thank you, sir.
Sit there uncomfortably for a minute while I wrap things up, and then we'll put you in your car.
Very good.
Wow, what a wonderful way to welcome back all human life forms after the rapture than today's 2 hours.
What a jip.
What a jip. Don't forget, that was a quote from Michael Chiklis. The rapture, what a jip. Wow, that was fantastic. Honest to goodness. They rarely go that enjoyable for me from this particular seat, so I do want to thank our guests today from the bottom of my bottom. That was pretty damn spectacular. And thank for everyone who was watching live and offered up some questions. Sorry we didn't get to all of them. Those of you catching us on the iTunes, very, very thrilled about the announcement at the outset. More to come on the details of the show being up on the Hulu.com and the Sirius Radio soon, certainly this summer. As for now, enjoy a free library, won't you? We're at the 2 hour mark. We were without our director, Mike Rotman, another great Boston fan of all sports included, and our very own Sam Levine. So our best out to both of them and travel safe home. Next week, next Sunday, May 29th, will be a historical moment for me personally, as one of my all-time heroes and mentors will be my guest. He is a comedy genius. His name is Christopher Guest, and I will be making an ass of myself for 2 hours, hopefully. As we wrap things up, as always around this time, I wonder what my crew outside of the studio here has been up to for the last hour, 59 minutes and 49 seconds. If only there was some sort of audio and video evidence of what's been taking place.
Yeah.
Woo!
No
We made it,
rapture.
guys. Yeah,
Totally did not get taken.
Awesome.
That's great. Cool.
Oh, hey, check it out. They totally got the day and time wrong.
Really?
It's supposed to be today.
What time?
Ow.
May went up.
Fuck.
I don't understand. Wait. This is bullshit. Why? Why must J-Mac be our Wile E. Coyote? It's so not fair. Emily and Nay are going to go on up to heaven in the rapture, and J-Mac's shoulder catches on fire.
I want to see. I love that they always use that fire effect.
Yes, yes.
I want to see that in every crew gag, even if it doesn't.
Even if it doesn't apply.
Work.
Okay, that's a mandate. You heard it. You've got your marching orders. A little bit of fire
Somebody
from now
blows
on.
up.
Oh, God. All right, so this has been spectacular. I hope it was as much fun for you, although it couldn't possibly be, because it really has been historical for me. And I want to thank everybody involved. So until next week, and as always, get out of my face.
He's all
He's dry, but he's an alcoholic. He's hosting this train.